Practice mode. Webinar is now broadcasting. Boom, and it's recording. Hey everyone. Sorry for being a few minutes late. These live webinar things end up always being a little goofy, but thank you all for coming and joining us. There's a few things that kind of created this webinar. It's partly Brian's fault. I don't know if you guys can see this in the same view I am, but I'm seeing like a Brady Bunch view, so I'm pointing at Brian right now. Hopefully for everyone it's the same way. But so I posted a poll the other day on Twitter because the coronavirus was keeping us from going to different events, and you're hearing about events canceling and all this stuff. And I figured, like, for selfish reasons, I want the hangout session with the smartest people around. So I'm going to ask people what sort of webinars we should do and just do them. And so if nobody ends up listening, this is cool because now I'm getting to meet at least 3 new people that I haven't got to spend time with before, and Joe and John, which I love to hang out with also. So I created this thinking you guys can learn too. The public can come in. I hope you guys I see some people are in the chat, and you can ask questions like Q&A. There's actually, there's a bunch more. See participants, cool. So there's a bunch of people. So I'm gonna cut to the chase. But the coronavirus was one thing. The other thing is that at the next LA Blockchain Summit, we're giving every single person $100 in Bitcoin when you show up. So I want everyone, including myself, to learn more about Bitcoin before we do that. And so we'll try to do this more often, but to just get things rolling, let's start with Brian, because Brian responded to my poll and was like, you should have this person on, this person on, and this person on. And then I went, well, then you gotta be on too, because you'll probably have good questions for them because you want them on. So Brian, tell us about yourself, and then let's just go around the thing. I'll call out people's names in case the views are different for each person, but Brian, go first. Tell us about yourself.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect, man. I appreciate you being a good sport and like replying to the Twitter poll. And I mean, I feel like you're doing exactly what Twitter's meant to do, and that's just like get people together. So I appreciate that. Yeah, and then I shouted out Stephen Cole of the Orange County Bitcoin Network and Andrew Yang of River Financial, because they're just guys that I've been hanging out with in person down here in Orange County the same way like you kind of know Joe and John. And yeah, because I think just a big thing that panels need right now is they just need to meet just real regular Bitcoiners. Like there's nothing special about me. Like I'm just a guy, just an entrepreneur, and I just buy Bitcoin every month. That's it. There's nothing else really that special about me. So I appreciate you having me and inviting my friends too. Yeah.
Everyone's jealous of your green screen, Andrew, so you can go next, because I said the same thing. Robert, who's in the chat, just said he loves your Bitcoin green screen. That was the first thing. Even though we were running late, I spent like 3 minutes talking about that before we came on. So.
Yeah, man, I'm glad that you liked it. Yeah, so my name is Andrew Yang. I'm the Director of Marketing and Partnerships at River Financial. I also host a LA-based Bitcoin meetup called BitDevs LA. And, you know, one of my goals here is just to grow like a really strong Bitcoin community in LA. And so, yeah, thanks Alon for having us and allowing us to talk about Bitcoin. I'm really excited to have this discussion with you.
Love it, love it. And everybody who's in, feel free to ask questions in the chat, but there's also the QA thing, because in the QA thing, people can vote up questions and answers. I think we got a solid crew. Just looking at the attendees, we got some rock stars in there. So thanks, guys. So let's go to Stephen now. Stephen, tell us about yourself.
Hey guys, and yeah, thanks for putting this together, Alon. Good crew, and always fun to talk Bitcoin and crypto, especially with fellow Southern California folks. I think we're all Southern California here, which is nice.
Yeah, Andrew, are you in LA or are you in Orange County also with these guys?
So I live towards Orange County, but I drive out to LA once a month for the meetup. So
cool.
Yeah,
I joked that after the fact I realized everyone was in Orange County. So if we do this exact group again, we're gonna rebrand this. Well, maybe we'll create some kind of monthly series called the Real Bitcoiners of Orange County.
Hey,
ridiculous.
That is not bad at all.
It's so stupid, it's good.
I actually like it.
Stephen, tell us about yourself. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, no worries, no worries. So Stephen Cole, Bitcoiner since early 2014. I host a meetup group down in Orange County, so am a huge fan of the one that Andrew runs in LA and try to make it up to that as often as I can. And then down in Orange County, in Irvine, we've got the OC Bitcoin Network, and Brian has been helping organize that as well. Am a pretty active startup investor in the space, early stage, mostly pre-seed and seed style investing, and am also on the advisory board of a nonprofit organization called Code to Inspire. So the Code to Inspire mission is to kind of use web technology and cryptocurrency and Bitcoin being a big component of that to help empower young women in Afghanistan through technical education.
Nice. That's really, really cool. Awesome. Let's go to Joe and John. I'll let you guys pick who fight to see who goes first.
Joe, wait, are you on that side? I'll let you go, Joe. Go for it.
Hello, everyone. Joe Vezzani, the CEO and founder of Lunar Crush. So Lunar Crush is a social listening tool for crypto. So what we do is we're kind of out there looking at all the different social media activity that's happening across all cryptocurrencies, not just Bitcoin, to help people understand a little bit better what's happening in the communities around these projects. Because we like to say, without a community, there is no crypto. So that's what we work on, and but still long time Bitcoiner. Obviously, I think everyone finds, or at least in the earlier days, everyone finds Bitcoin first because sometimes that was the only thing you could find. So happy to be here, Alon. Thanks for sending me the text at 11 o'clock last night. Glad we can make it.
Hey. Everything came together pretty last minute, but I think that's part of the fun. You know what? I don't think anything in crypto really happens very far in advance. Like we all pretend like we're preparing really far in advance, but like everything ends up happening in the last minute, at least on the event side, because that's just the way things end up being. John, give us your background a little bit, and then I've got some questions, and hopefully the audience throws in some questions in the chat or in the QA section.
Yeah, I run product management, UX strategy, and marketing for Lunar Crush. Been in crypto since probably early 2013, something like that. Been through all the ups and downs, seen it all, including the last week. It's been fun. I should say that this last 4 or 5 days, it's been really interesting. And excited to be here, and I'm bullish on Alondex. I have to throw that out there too.
Oh yeah, guys. We're talking Bitcoin right now.
I'm sorry.
I know a couple of you. I'm gonna actually get to this question. There's all these maximalists, and people are like very anti-ETH because like somehow it's gonna like shit on Bitcoin. But we'll go there in 1 second. But Alondex doesn't let you trade Bitcoin yet, because it goes to it is a DEX I launched using the Total API. It's hosted on IPFS, and if you like unstoppable domains, you could actually go, instead of alondex.com, to alondex.crypto to get to it. But you can swap any ERC20 token for any ERC20 token, no fees. I just wanted to see if I could launch my own DEX, because when Total launched their API, I thought, oh, cool, this is like a super easy way to launch a DEX. So I messaged somebody about IPFS, and I said, I want to host a DEX on IPFS using the Total API, and they told me it wasn't possible. And like 15 minutes later, it was up. So they didn't know. It's kind of cheating though, because I use the Total API, which calls things that are not on IPFS. So it is a little bit cheating, but it was still a little challenge, and it was pretty fun. So if you ever want to swap tokens on decentralized exchanges, it'll automatically route it to the best route to make it happen fast, and also the cheapest route. And I don't take fees or anything like that. Neither does Total. So it's a pretty cool thing. But thanks for the shout out. John, so you mentioned the last 4 or 5 days. Before we go into stuff, I saw an article this morning, both you and Joe would probably know, but I saw an article this morning that said something like, using the data from your site. I don't even think you guys publish this, but I saw an article, because I get Google alerts on you guys, saying like the most bearish sentiment in the last whatever, like I saw a headline really fast while getting in my car, but tell me what, because everyone's been talking about how this is supposed to be different from the regular markets, and it's kind of trended with the regular markets down. Still a little better from my angle, but what's if we're gonna go market stuff, and Andrew probably has some thoughts on this too from River Financial, but I'd love to get your thoughts.
So
Watching all the social sentiment.
yeah, in the last 48 hours, we've seen more bullish sentiment. And what that really means is everyone that's doing social posts that relates to Bitcoin.
There's
Anytime
a
they
bullish
mention,
sentiment or bearish?
so we've built a natural language processing library from the ground up that looks at crypto specific language. So it's been trained across tens, hundreds of thousands of tweets. And it looks for negative keywords. It looks for negative phrases, negative emotions, negative emojis. It looks at specific accounts. It knows Peter Schiff is bullish. It knows that Nouriel Roubini is bearish. It knows that Nouriel is bearish. And so what we do is we look at every single post that contains Bitcoin related keywords, and we evaluate if it's bullish or bearish or spam, or maybe it's somewhere in the middle, it's neutral. And so the last 48 hours, we've seen a lot of bullish sentiment increase, so much so that it's like 10x what we've seen in the last year. And so you could take that a number of different ways. You could say it's a buying opportunity. You could say it's totally risk off right now because, you know, as great as any asset is, how you could claim how uncorrelated it is or correlated it is. When people are worried about paying their bills and their mortgage and all of that, there's a bit of a panic. And so, you know, we're in panic mode, and we see it again today when the stock market's up 1,000 points almost, and then it's down 100. And so I don't even know where it is right now. But it's extreme volatility, and it causes a lot of bearish behavior. And we pick that up on social, and it's actually the highest we've ever seen it since we started tracking.
Crazy. So I'm not a trader, so I always ask you guys questions because like I'm very emotional driven, and it'll be like 1 in the morning and I'll be like, I'm buying ETH right now, or like I gotta buy more Bitcoin, and then I wake up in the morning and I'm like, I'm a genius, and then by the afternoon I lost all my money. Like, so I don't even go there. I just hold for forever basically, which is why I like early stage startups. Like it's a roller coaster, and I'm on your team forever. So you know what, this sort of, you know, these opportunities and things like, do you see the social sentiment coming and creating indicators on buying and selling before you know the price changes and things like that? Like how delayed is everyone talking about it to the price changing, and how accurate is that stuff for the traders amongst us? And then I'll move into the more fundamental fun stuff.
So it's a great question, and we get that one a lot. And we even created what's called a correlation rank against it, where it looks at how correlated social activity is to price movements. And what we see a lot of, there's a couple things. One is we see that social engagement, more than other metrics, tends to precede. And I will say, you know, there's a caveat there, not always, right? But social engagement looks at things like deeper things going on versus someone just randomly posting and no one cares. It's likes, it's shares, it's retweets, it's comments, it's upvotes on Reddit. We're looking at that deeper interaction, and you tend to see deeper interaction when there's major things going on. People don't just, you know, start long-term like big 100 comment conversations for fun. It's when things are happening. And so we tend to see when there's spikes of engagement, people get freaked out. It's kind of almost that emotion you just gave. You know, I buy ETH, I go to sleep, I wake up, I feel like the genius, and like there's that euphoria, and then in between that euphoria and the trade.
Yeah. I haven't done that since the last craziness, because I've learned that about myself. But.
But between the euphoria and the trade, sometimes there's a gap. Sometimes people are they're transferring funds to exchanges that even carry a specific coin, you know, that even support it. And so we tend to see there's these gaps between spikes in social engagement and trading. So I will leave it with that. And you know, if there's anything else to add by anyone, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I would say there is some bullish sentiment, at least from the institutional perspective. And one of the signs that you can look for are interest rates. So if you look at BlockFi and other lending platforms, you'll see that the interest rates have been decreasing. And so what that means is that people are less willing to go short on Bitcoin, borrowing it to short it. And so there's less of a demand.
And you're talking about the interest rates specifically on Bitcoin, like
yeah,
BlockFi or Celsius and things like that. Okay.
Yeah, but I think interest rates overall have been decreasing for all the crypto assets, right? And so I think that's like an indication that the overall crypto market is pushing to be bullish. And another, like for me, from an investment perspective, I think there's some pretty good signs that Bitcoin is an uncorrelated asset. And so in times of financial uncertainty, which we're kind of like getting into with, with the coronavirus, with like the recent like crash in oil price, us being in the greatest like bull run in stock market history, and people fearing a trace back after that, like, and even like, the repo market and how it's been kind of like spazzing out recently, and the Fed had to intervene in like I think October or September. So there's like a lot of signs that are making I think people feel a little bit uneasy, and so if they're looking for alternatives, they're looking for an asset that isn't correlated with the market, and I think Bitcoin is that asset. And one of the signs that we can see is when Iran attacked the U.S., the price of Bitcoin pumped, and so that to me is one pretty good indication that people are kind of viewing it as a safe haven now. Like, this isn't like concrete. We need more data points. We need more evidence. And some people might say, well, look at Bitcoin now, right? With the oil price crashing and Bitcoin is tanking. So like, how is it exactly uncorrelated then? Well, I think one of my arguments would be, well, I think let's not confuse like being negatively correlated with being uncorrelated. So negatively correlated means like if the price of the stock market goes up, then Bitcoin goes down. And if the stock market goes down, then Bitcoin goes up always, right? And so I think the fact that like if when Iran attacked US and Bitcoin price went up, and then also that the stock market crashed and Bitcoin is also going down, there might be some more evidence there that it actually is uncorrelated, because uncorrelated simply means it doesn't matter what happens with the stock market, the price of Bitcoin does whatever it does, right? And so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is, I think Stephen has a comment, but I was just going to say is, Ari Paul had a good thread about this the other day too, maybe yesterday, but what I was going to say is it's also very different for us in the United States versus in other countries, where as much as we can all argue, and most of us are probably in this industry because we don't love politicians and our politicians in general or whatever, and we don't have to go there, but we could, but the whole point though is that we are still spoiled in the United States, right? Like, crypto isn't significantly better for average day-to-day life and transacting or whatever, and we're not fearing leaving our country and getting all of our wealth or property stolen from us. And if we were in a country like Iran, or if we're in some other dictatorship or a third world country, Bitcoin would be a lot more valuable to us, because if we literally might have either generational trauma or ourselves feel like we need to leave our country, like, you got to put your money somewhere, that can't be gold, because anything physical can be taken from you. And so I think that's why we saw it trading. I think it was like 2x the rest of the world in Iran a few weeks ago or a couple months ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to go?
Yeah. And I'd agree very much with your assessment of things, Andrew. I think Bitcoin isn't yet a safe haven asset. I don't think it's quite where a lot of the world's value will flee in response to these large macro events that we're seeing. But I think it has all the fundamental characteristics to be a safe haven asset over time. I think all it really lacks is an established history and a reputation. So gold, the premier safe haven asset, has a 6,000-year reputational lead on Bitcoin. So it will, I think, take a while of Bitcoin just continuing to quietly and reliably chug along, making blocks every 10 minutes or so and doing what it's doing. And then over time, it will kind of gain that safe haven reputation. But I agree, it's already uncorrelated. So in terms of diversification, in terms of just sheltering or insulating yourself a little bit from some assets that you do expect to have significant downside, super attractive right now. And long term, there's a lot of upside in Bitcoin capturing some of gold's market. So the market cap of gold, roughly $7 trillion, market cap of Bitcoin, 150 billion or so. So enormous upside potential still.
I agree. What I'll say is I've learned from the different cycles in technology that every single cycle happens faster and faster now. Like just think that when Amazon launched, people thought they were insane that anyone would buy a book on the internet. Like that was crazy. Now, and then PayPal launched. I remember like people thought I was nuts when I bought some things on eBay when they first launched, before PayPal, and PayPal came to solve some problems there. Like all these things have happened so fast, and when you look back in time, it wasn't that long ago. So I think it'll happen faster. Brian, what's your thought? You set yourself up at the beginning of this, like, I'm just a dude that buys Bitcoin. Yeah. So as just a dude that buys Bitcoin, have you transacted much in Bitcoin? Like, do you ever buy coffee with Bitcoin? And do you see, your friends around you? Because we're in a bubble, right? We're all in this like,
sure.
Hey, yeah, I've bought things with Bitcoin, but I don't know if anybody else I know, like outside of this world has.
Yeah. So I said I'm just a guy who buys Bitcoin. I didn't say I'm a guy who buys things with Bitcoin. Like that's Bitcoin is money. Bitcoin is better money than fiat money, period. Because it has a hard cap, which means the Fed can't inflate it and print it away. And so every month I move a little bit of my fiat money into Bitcoin for the future. So I'm saving it. That's what I do with it. I spend my fiat money. I buy more Bitcoin. And if at the end of, after every month, I have more dollars in my bank account and I have more sats in my cold storage, that's a positive month. And that's all I'm trying to do every month, month on month.
Do you, so how do you feel like, let's say 6 months from now down the road, you want to buy a car or buy a house, you don't have enough fiat in your bank account, would you consider spending Bitcoin, or you would just suffer and go, I'm not buying that house?
So it's a great question. And I actually just did buy a house.
Because it's money. Like money is money, dude. You're not going to spend your money?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like it's a great question. And I did just buy a house. Like, and I had a lot of Bitcoin friends on Twitter being like, oh man, like, are you quitting? Like, did you sell all your Bitcoin? Like, what are you doing? Like real estate? Like, are you a boomer now? What are you doing? I'm like, no, like, I mean, I'm married.
You buy a house.
Like, I'm married, just coming up on 3 years. Like my wife has a great job and she wants to have a house. And so like, we decided like, we're going to suspend like my monthly Bitcoin allocation for a while, for the months while we're stacking dollars to buy a house. And then we bought the house, and I'm just coming out of that. Like I'm inside my first early months coming out of home ownership. And so now, reallocating, like my dad's taught me how to budget my whole life. Like I've been really blessed to like always be frugal, always know how to, balance my budget using mint.com or whatever I'm using. And to me now there's just two sides of my balance sheet. There's the dollar side of my balance sheet. Now there's the stats side of my balance sheet, and nothing's really different. Like I'm working on saving both, but like the distinction I make is like you can have an emergency fund in dollars for your normal expenses. You can have long-term savings in Bitcoin because I believe in the fundamentals of Bitcoin being better money. And then I still invest in the stock market because I believe in the United States of America. I believe in the S&P 500. I believe in our entrepreneurs like here in the US, and I mean entrepreneurs around the world. But I still believe in entrepreneurs. And so I don't think none of those three categories to me like have to be in conflict with each other. Like the conflict that keeps running into, kind of like crypto in general is just like, to me, the most confusing thing to like, and this is like, I feel like the elephant in the room with every single one of these conversations, like what are all these other things? And I don't know. Like the reason why I set myself up as like who I am, I'm just a guy who buys Bitcoin, is because I don't know. I don't know what the purpose of any of that other stuff is. I know the purpose of Bitcoin is to be hard money, hard cap money that goes up in value in theory, because fiat money is worse. Like that's what I'm actively putting my money where my mouth is on that every month. And I don't know what the time frame is. So, but that's my theory. And I've never, like, all the panels I've watched, all the YouTubes I've watched, all this stuff, to me, I think like the dollar is on solid ground, Bitcoin's on solid ground, the S&P is on solid ground because you're buying a share of a company. When you own this other stuff, I can't tell why the value should go up or down, because to me, it doesn't feel like the share of a company.
So you're talking about just random shitcoins or tokens in general, but
Yeah.
like if you go more specifically towards like Ethereum, and there's people that will argue, you know, you're not buying all those other ones or certain ones of those other ones for the long-term value. You're not holding it as a hedge against the current markets like you would with Bitcoin or whatever. You're buying into this because you believe in the DeFi community who's building some really epic products that might put insurance companies out of business. You know, like they might do their you know, like DMM that launched like last week, in full disclosure, were investors in them. So, you know, like I'm biased, but like they took real world assets, like a real $10 million pool of loans, and then created a DAO that actually creates this token where you can earn 6.25% interest on a real world pool, but actually on the blockchain verifiably see every single one of those loans so that you can actually verify that they exist, right? So it's like somewhere in the middle. Like I get why you might feel how you feel about the S&P 500, but I also get why people would be like, the fuck is compound? Like, I don't even get it. Like, is this just like made up? Like, but you're earning interest. So like, so I understand, especially when you don't get into the technical aspects, because I don't think I'm smart enough to fully grasp them either. But like, you know, there's like, not saying anything about you, that just came out like I'm saying
No. I get
something.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
not smart.
Right.
You guys are way smarter than me. That's why I have these conversations. But but you know, like I totally get the both sides of the paradigm shift.
Insurance,
So,
like insurance is math based on money.
Mhm.
And like, to me, that's why DeFi has never been able to be explained to me, because it seems like they're still just printing money. Like the other tokens are still just money that was printed. And so to me,
Yeah, but
math is the math, but I don't know why like the underlying thing doesn't feel like money to me.
Well, the underlying thing is a technology. It's like saying that, like, because I have online banking, the internet should feel like money. The internet doesn't need to feel like money. The bank is the online bank, and it's just on those rails. So if there's a smart contracting language or technology that's enabling it, that's how I feel about it, right? There are people that go, ETH is money, and they'll talk about it, and I don't fully get that argument either. But we should get some people on here to argue with us. It'll be fun. But the insurance companies, the reason why I love DeFi being able to deal with that, and there's AI type of situations that in combination could do it, is because it is math, right? It is strictly like math equations. Like, okay, what are the chances, the odds of something happening? Here's the premium, here's our margin. But with regulation and big banks and big businesses the way they are, the average citizen like overpays like 10x, and their margins are insane. It's one of those last like super taking advantage of the consumer businesses that DeFi could fix, because you could completely cut out the middlemen and actually go back to how insurance originally started, which is community style stuff. That's why I'm into it. Joe, we haven't really heard from you. Wait, there's a few random kind of questions and things in here. Scrolling up, Alan Austin, by the way, shout out to the Litecoin Foundation and Alan Austin, who is a rock star and helps run that. Alan said, crypto's still young, and initial panic often pushes people to liquidate whatever they have, stocks, crypto, etc. With time, we should see more of a shift from traditional markets into crypto. I think we're all here because we all agree with you. You guys, hey, that's a kind of cool just thing that can go in 18,000 directions. Hedy Wook said, if I pronounced that right, I apologize if I didn't. Do you guys think Bitcoin has done its job already? Joe, you want to start, just because I know it's not Lunar Crush sort of related, but you're an early in this space person, just like all of us.
Yeah, I can answer that, and I can, you know, weigh in just like a little bit on some of the conversation, I guess, around potentially Bitcoin being like a non-correlated asset. I think just one thing on that is, when it's about kind of think about it as like movement almost, right? When things were happening and there's some sort of war or threat, it's kind of localized, right? And what is cryptocurrency inherently or Bitcoin used for? It's I have this money and I can use it anywhere. I have this currency and it's generally accepted anywhere, right? So when it's localized like that, you're going to see the value of something that allows you to interact in those situations go up in value, right? But when you see something like what's happening right now with coronavirus, inherently people aren't moving around, right? And if you look at the stock market and equities and Bitcoin in the last couple of days and look at it specifically today, very correlated, highly correlated, right? You're seeing Bitcoin going up and as futures last night, because the reason the stock market went up last night is because Trump, in a fleeting thought on stage, said that payroll taxes are going down, right? And so people got excited. Lo and behold, the market drops 900 points, Bitcoin goes down, market comes back a couple hundred points, Bitcoin goes up, right? So depending on the scenario in which we land, I think it's going to depend on those things, how correlated or uncorrelated it is. I think it's just price discovery. And like we're saying, we don't have a history yet. We don't know. But you can't pin it as highly correlated or uncorrelated yet until we get more data. And when you look at what are these things, like why do cryptocurrencies even exist? And you think about it, commodities, right? Commodities are useful or valuable things. Currency is, the quality of generally being accepted of use. And then money is actually, the definition of that is just the assets, the property, the resources, right? Like that is money. Currency is really, I think, what's in question here. And I don't think that we've ever in a time before had the ability to trade commodities with a very quickly understandable value, right? Like Bitcoin gives us the ability to put a instant value on a commodity, and we've never done that before, right? You use the US dollar as $1 to understand how much does a car cost, how much does a boat cost, how much does my phone cost. But if you instantly cross-valued and all of those things potentially had their own currency, then you would know instantly how much everything is worth. And we've just never been in a scenario like that before. And so that's why I think we do need to have more than one of these things, because there are a lot of problems that Bitcoin cannot solve in this space, right? Like when you see investment banks securitizing commercial loans, like why Bitcoin's available, why aren't they using it for that today, right? If it's available and it's the best solution, they'd be using it, but they're not. They're using things like Tezos, right? They're using different types of.
I was waiting till you found a way to mention Tezos. We're
There's
only
different
like 30
ways.
minutes
I
in.
think to go back to the original thing, has Bitcoin done its job? Absolutely. And I think that it's unchanging. The reason that, or the fact that it's unchanging is why it's so pure and why it's so perfect. And if it was to change and was to fork and do these crazy things, then it wouldn't be the underlying store value that we all have come to see it be. And as it's being unchanging, then the confidence inherently goes up in what we've kind of created, and as people have kind of bolstered it. So I think absolutely it's done its job to what it's been able to do thus far.
Cool. No, I agree. I'm just trying to look at the questions because I know we were scheduled till 10:45. We'll try to go a little long since I started it late when I screwed up, but I know some of the panelists and I even have a meeting at 11 o'clock, so I wanted to make sure we're safe about it. But there's a couple questions from Barry Fay. Hey man, good to see you in here. I'm not gonna have the panelists answer the 3 crypto tokens you should buy right now. Brian already responded with Bitcoin, Bitcoin, and Bitcoin.
Last one.
It was a good question. It was a good question.
It was a great question, but you should follow Lunar Crush. They give you the social insights of the right now, and they'll tell you, some thoughts. But I don't want to give investment advice other than, some education from people who clearly are all bought in anyway. So it's kind of, I think you're bought in too, the fact that you're here, and we're all sort of into it. But what I will ask is, he was asking what the best exchanges in the US are. So, that some of we're boxed out of some of the international exchanges and can't participate. Does anybody have any opinions on what the best ones in the US are other than alondex.com?
I think you have to look at what your strategy is. I mean, are you a day trader? Are you a swing trader? Are you buying Bitcoin a little bit every week with your paycheck? You have to really understand what your strategy is. Something like a Coinbase is fine for most regular folks out there, versus they have no idea how to use a Coinbase Pro. Like a lot of our exchanges seem to be going away in the US, and there's a very few central exchanges, and it gets really complicated for most people. But I think you really have to ask yourself, are you just like Bitcoin only? Because they all trade Bitcoin. It's not that complicated. But again, like, are you getting into altcoins? How often are you trading? I think you have to start there and then start to make some decisions.
Yeah, I'm biased, but
Barry
I'd say
specifically said he wants a wide variety of crypto.
yeah, I'm biased, but I'd say the best place to buy Bitcoin is River Financial. It's the place that I work for. It's a Bitcoin only brokerage, but like, what's up?
Oh, I wanted you to, yeah, tell us more about River specifically. That's what I was about to ask you.
Yeah, River, we're a Bitcoin only brokerage. Most of the volume and all the cryptocurrency exchanges out there is done in Bitcoin. That's just a simple fact. And one of the reasons why we're focusing on Bitcoin only is because we want to scale like vertically. We don't want to waste our time, our resources, our efforts, and trying to expand horizontally. And it allows us to move fast. It allows us to offer better security than other exchanges, because Bitcoin has certain tools that other exchanges can't leverage, because other coins, they don't have the technology, they don't have the tools, such as like partially signed Bitcoin transactions. And so, yeah, like if you're looking for an on-ramp to Bitcoin, I highly recommend checking out River Financial. We prioritize client service, customer support. We also offer tooling, like financial tooling, stuff that like Coinbase, other exchanges, they don't have. They don't have something called performance tracking, right? And so, which like tells you how much in USD your Bitcoin investment is worth. But that's like very common in like other platforms like Fidelity, traditional stock institutions. And then, we also have like these, what we call recurring orders. And so we just want to make it really easy for our clients to stack sats and to make sure that they're dollar cost averaging to make the most out of their money.
Did you say Lightning? Did you say Lightning withdrawals? Did you say
yes,
that?
We also,
okay, good.
We also
Nice.
have Lightning deposits and withdrawals for you to play with if you're interested in the newest Bitcoin technology.
It's sweet. What I do is I make my main order and then I withdraw like the bulk of it, and then whatever the change just left over is I take to my Lightning wallet. It's sweet. You can do both back to back.
Yeah, and if I can add on a little bit there too, one trend that I'm pretty enthused about in the industry, and granted, I'm a Bitcoin maximalist, but I like seeing these new companies that are Bitcoin only evolve. So things like Cash App, things like River Financial, and Swan Bitcoin. Full disclosure, I'm an investor in Swan. They seem very long-term Bitcoin only kind of principled companies, and I think a lot of the pain that has been.
That's Corey's company, Give Bitcoin, right?
Yes, yeah. So kind of rebranding, or Swan is like the umbrella company. So Give Bitcoin is a product of Swan. And these companies that encourage, dollar cost averaging over time, recurring buys, features like that, I think guide the average retail investor a little more responsibly into this space. I think a lot of the pain that the average person felt, especially 2017, early 2018, is just they come on, they're presented with this, smorgasbord of illiquid altcoins, and it's very easy to get burned if you don't know what you're doing and you don't have a lot of context. I'm not a fan of Coinbase. I think Coinbase is, adding a lot of altcoins, a lot of their educational material is kind of subtly framing those altcoins as superior to Bitcoin in some ways that I'm not sure are fair. And so I think that a lot of the companies that are just building towards Bitcoin only are going to gain ground on the Coinbases and the Binances of the world in the next few years.
And even I see like shaking heads when says framing them as superior to Bitcoin, even if they're not framing superior to Bitcoin, they're not framing it as different than Bitcoin. Even like, let's just start even there. They're not even framing it as different. And that's why I explained, like, they're like, Bitcoin is money. Bitcoin has the properties of money. This other stuff doesn't have the properties of money. It doesn't have the properties of securities. And then the other thing I would add to like there's more US owned like Bitcoin only exchanges coming up. Like if you're really into Bitcoin, the way that you can support that is you should have a recurring buy set up at Cash, River, and Swan Bitcoin. That's how you do it. You split up however much you're in monthly.
Divvy it up between 4 or 5 different ones.
because you have to help these companies. You have to help them get adoption. It's all about the adoption numbers. I believe in social sentiment. I believe in adoption numbers. I believe in all that stuff. I'm not arguing that like this thing's here right now. I really see this as like a political movement and see this as like a revolution. Like if you're a part of this revolution, like Bitcoin is the backbone of it. And you should have recurring buys set up across every small company that you can, and then take it off as soon as you can get it.
100%. Yeah, I would echo that completely. And to go back a little bit to Hedy Wook's question of, is Bitcoin's job done? My answer would be, it's not quite done yet, because although it's been doing fantastically well for the last decade, the Federal Reserve is still operational. And we're still, you know, the average person is having their savings debased continuously by the issuance of new debt, new dollars, new fiat, easy money policies. And I think ultimately that is what Bitcoin is going to fix.
Right.
So let's take this to an extreme. So if the Federal Reserve not being in existence anymore means Bitcoin did its job, does it also mean that the collapse of governments completely and no borders across the world means Bitcoin has done its job?
It's funny. I got a story there.
Yeah.
That was one of my first thoughts when I first bought Bitcoin in 2013, that was what will happen inevitably. And I'm surprised it's taking this long. And
really?
Yeah, that's probably,
You're surprised that the most powerful entities in the world are holding for 10 years? I would hope it lasts longer.
But two reasons. One is Bitcoin moves on macro movements. We've been talking about coronavirus, Iran, Trump. These are big things. No one's mentioned a single altcoin moves that way, right? Like this is how Bitcoin moves. And because it moves that way, because it transcends borders, it transcends any individual currency of any government. It's just overall, the simple term is better. It's interesting. We're at the point of the government's clamping down because they're scared. And so, you know, I think once we get past the scary part of it and we start to figure some things out, people eventually start to realize, wow, like, why do I have a government? Why can I only transact in one country for this thing or that thing? You know, things like insurance. I heard Tim Draper talking about insurance. That is so risky to be involved in insurance right now. Crypto can eat that up. So, you know, there's a lot of really interesting things, but yeah, I mean, it's half sensible, half anarchist, the view, I guess, of like what exactly is going to happen in the next 10 years here. We're only 10 years into this. So, you know, it's going to be fascinating, but
I think it's awesome in all directions. And I love the chaos, which maybe shows, you know, a weird, deeper sense into our personalities, but I think we all kind of love it in our own ways. Joseph, my partner, and I were having lunch like yesterday, and we were like, why are we a little bit delighted that there's probably a huge financial crisis coming? Like, that's not healthy. Like, we should not be okay with this because it means a lot of uncertainty and scary things. But I think we're all in this because we believe in a lot. So I know we kind of don't have too much time. We're already over time because I started a little late, but I wanted to see if there's any sort of really high level stuff I missed in the questions. We're going to have to do this again. And,
read that Draper for governor in the comments. Draper for governor.
Draper for
I would
governor.
Echo that.
I'm happy. You know what? That would be kind of awesome. But then how much, if it takes time away from investing in early stage startups, he'll be less effective. So I don't know.
Alon, I do want to mention one thing, and I want people to be cognizant of this environment that we're in. And in 2008, it was a financial crisis. Right now, if you talk to any banker, they're turning away business so fast because there's so much business that's coming to them right now with the interest rates and the way that they are. Is that as the Fed is lowering interest rates, the banks are not. They are just increasing their margins currently. And that we're in a current environment where they are actually making more money and making more money hand over fist right now. They're literally turning away things and raising their prices. And so as people just scream towards the banks and people are refinancing and there's lending out there, it's going to be a completely different type of environment out there where we could potentially see a negative rate, right? Like in 2008, if you were going to tell someone that Washington Mutual was going to go under, they would have told you were crazy, right? That that company's gone, right? If you would have told me that Lehman Brothers was going to go under, they would have told you were crazy. And so we might go into a completely different type of environment than we've seen previously that might not look like so much of a financial crisis. Banks have more cash on their balance sheet than they've ever had. They're getting more business. I mean, they are stronger than they've ever been. And so it's going to be it's going to be something different than I think happens, and I don't think we quite know that yet.
So, but like my feelings about it, it's so weird because we're sort of all here because we don't like regulation for the most part. But the regulation in Europe, the consumer protections in Europe, which are much more extreme in many ways than here, have actually forced those banks to basically provide the same sort of stuff that they get, right? So the banks that are receiving negative interest rates, like everyone's talking about the Fed printing money, but the only way they get it into the economy is if they give it to banks at a negative interest rate. So in Europe, there are countries where you can actually refinance your home and get a negative interest rate today. So you're saying that the US banks, because the regulations allow them to basically do much worse things to their customers, is just keeping the same rates or similar rates and just making more money, profiting more.
Mortgage rates have actually gone up since the cut. Your mortgage rate that you would get from the bank has gone up in price. Now,
that's funny because I talked to
a month or two, 3 months, maybe not. Maybe we do go lower as they have to get more competitive. But right now, in the last couple of weeks, it's actually gone up.
But it's funny because when you talk to the average consumer, they say like, "Oh, you got to go to the bank because they lowered rates. It means you'll get a lower interest rate."
Right. They just haven't been looking over the last couple of months. Rates already came down. They were already getting more aggressive because the banks kind of saw this. A lot of people have to remember, before coronavirus, everyone was thinking that the bubble was about to burst anyway. We're going into an election year here in the US. People kind of already thought that was going to happen. This is now just extrapolating it, and it's an excuse for the Fed to point and say, hey, we can print more money. Look what's happening, right? We are going to lower interest rates. We might lower capital requirements for banks. They're out of bullets. We have like 2 more bullets as far as Fed fund rates go. If they're going to go lower at 50 basis points each time, then they're on to capital requirements. We're kind of on a slippery slope when it comes to that.
It's super fascinating. I guess I don't know why I thought we'd even be able to scratch the surface in like a 45-minute, 50-minute panel. So we're going to have to do something like this again. So the real Bitcoiners of OC will be back. But guys, let's just go one quick, like everybody 30-second plug something yourself or something you want everyone to check out. And then maybe when we post the YouTube video of this or something, we'll like start like a thread on Twitter or LinkedIn or something where we answer questions for more people. But we'll do more. But I want one plug from everyone. Start, Brian.
All right. If Tim Draper is watching this, Tim, I sent you an email about working for the split California into 3 states. Your committee on that. Super bummed when it got pulled from the ballot. I'd love to work for you on the next opportunity that you have. I'm a good political operative here in Orange County. Thank you. I'll
forward an email if you send it to me.
I guess I can go next. I'm Andrew Yang again. I'm the Director of Marketing at River Financial. It is the best place to buy, sell, and use Bitcoin for the long-term investor. Check it out. Also, if you're in LA, I come check out our BitDevs LA. It is a Bitcoin-focused meetup, and we are just trying to grow the Bitcoin community here in LA. So
is it specifically for developers?
It is developer-focused, but Bitcoin enthusiasts can come and learn. And one of my favorite parts is that even though you're not a developer, you can just listen and even ask questions and hear from Bitcoin experts about their experience with Bitcoin, or any technical questions you have, they'll answer them.
Cool. Steven.
Sure, I'll do a couple, but I'll keep them really quick. First is the Orange County Bitcoin Network meetup group. If you are anywhere in Southern California, we're on meetup.com. Would love to have you out. We do monthly events. And then if it's cool to plug something I'm an investor in, so a company, Samurai Wallet, Bitcoin only Android wallet, and have a suite of products geared towards privacy. Just wanted to highlight kind of what I would consider a milestone for privacy on Bitcoin. They released CoinJoin mixing technology in their Android application. And so that's the first time that that's been available to users mobilely. Like before that, to do coin joins and to make your Bitcoin activity private, you had to run software on a server or a desktop PC and just a lot of overhead. Now, anyone with an Android phone can keep their spending activity and their financial sovereignty private. And I think that's a huge deal for privacy and fungibility.
Cool. John, Joe, lunarcrush.com, but you give some plugs, say something.
Go for it, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, sign up at lunarcrush.com. It's free. Get all the insights that you want across all the coins, but also Bitcoin. Go check out that bearish sentiment candle that we saw a couple days ago that we've never seen. But I think we're at a bearish capitulation moment here with Bitcoin. So I think it's a good thing. And then we also just launched a developer suite of tools at Lunar Crush. So now you can build all of our insights with widgets for free. We have an API, and then we also released a real-time WebSocket. So if you are creating a bot or in quant trading, you can utilize social insights to help you trade.
I'll just add, it's completely free to sign up for lunarcrush.com. It's really our gift to the crypto community. We want everyone to be armed with insights. And I'll say as part of that freeness, if that's even a real word, we give away widgets for free. So if you've got a blog, a website, a news website, anything like that, you can embed our widgets for free. And that's in our developer section on our site.
I know this dude with a DEX that wants some of the data added to it. No, okay. So I didn't give any sort of real plugs. I did say the LA Blockchain Summit, but like we're all based in Southern California. We do a thing. It used to be called CIS, but we're just rebranding it to LA Blockchain Summit. We do LA Blockchain Week, and we've always done it as a pretty much free event for the community because we give college students and all sorts of groups free tickets, and we find ways to help people earn free tickets. This time, thanks to eToro, we have free tickets again. And what's really cool about it is we're taking basically all of the opportunity for profit off the table by giving every single person who has a general admission ticket, even if you get it for free, $100 in Bitcoin at the event. So every single person will be there with $100 of Bitcoin in their pocket. And then part of the education will be to teach people how to spend it, how to save it, how to earn interest on it if they want, how to swap it for Tezos, how to swap it for whatever you want, or literally to keep it. And what I would recommend is just go to lablockchainsummit.com/free and find out how to get a free ticket. If you already have an eToro account, you don't qualify for the free ticket, but convince some friends and family. And if they can't come to the summit, we're always really good and easy and tell people how to transfer their ticket to other people. So, but check that out. And then I'm an early stage investor as well, just like Steven. We invest in early stage blockchain startups. We don't like trade crypto and stuff like that. We get equity, and we're like very long-term people. So, you know, Lunar Crush is a portfolio company of ours, but we have about 13 other portfolio companies now. So if you are an early stage company, I want to hear about your company. So send us a note at drapergorenholm.com. But thank you guys so much for being here. We definitely have to do this again. Thanks for being good sports and staying. Now we're a minute later than 11 o'clock, so I know we all have to run. Guys, thank you, and everyone for participating. And we'll do this again, and I'll post this online for everyone who missed it. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys. This is a ton of fun. See ya.